Well, hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 2C TV, your global news channel. We come to you guys with live coverage coming from the House of Commons as the Home Secretary is now speaking about the crisis of her government and Keir Starmer. Let's quickly go to Parliament now.
Searching for the
there we go.
Attractive place to seek refuge.
Just started now.
The burden that has fallen on this country has been heavy.
They're trying their best to save the government.
Asylum here in the last 4 years. Over 100,000 people now live in asylum accommodation, and over half of refugees remain on benefits 8 years after they have arrived. To the British public who foot the bill, the system feels out of control and unfair. It feels that way because it is. The pace and scale of change has destabilised communities. It is making our country a more divided place. There will never be a justification for the violence and racism of a minority. But if we fail to deal with this crisis, we will draw more people down a path that starts with anger and ends in hatred. I have no doubt about who we really are in this country. We are open, tolerant, and generous. But the public rightly expect that we can determine who enters this country and who must leave. To maintain the generosity that allows us to provide sanctuary, we must restore order and control. Rather than deal substantively with this problem, the last Conservative government wasted precious years and £700 million on their failed Rwanda plan, with the lamentable result of just 4 volunteers removed from the country. As a result, they left us with the grotesque chaos of asylum seekers housed in hotels, shuttled around in taxis, with the taxpayer footing the bill. My predecessor as Home Secretary picked up this dreadful inheritance and rebuilt the foundations of a collapsed asylum system. Decision-making has been restored, with a backlog now 18% lower than when we entered office. Removals have increased, reaching nearly 50,000 under this government. Immigration enforcement has hit record levels, with a security bill is progressing through Parliament. And my predecessor struck a historic agreement with the French, which means small boat arrivals can now be sent back to France. These are vital steps, but we must go further. Today we have published Restoring Order and Control, a new statement on our asylum policy. Its goals are twofold. Firstly, to reduce illegal arrivals into this country, and secondly, to increase removals of those with no right to be here. It starts by accepting an uncomfortable truth. While asylum claims fall across Europe, they are rising here. And that is because of the comparative generosity of our asylum offer, when compared to so many of our European neighbours. This generosity is a factor that draws people to these shores on a path that runs through other safe countries. Nearly 40% come on small boats and over perilous channel crossings, but a roughly equal number come here legally via a visitor, work or study visa and then go on to claim asylum. They do so because refugee status is the most generous route into this country. An initial grant lasts 5 years, which is then converted almost automatically into permanent settled status. In other European countries, things are done differently. In Denmark, refugee status is temporary and they provide safety and sanctuary until it is possible for a refugee to return home.
You voted for this.
In recent years, asylum claims have hit a 40-year low. And now, across Europe, countries are tightening their systems in similar ways. We must act too. We will do so by making refugee status temporary, not permanent. A grant of refugee status will last 2.5 years, not 5. It will be renewed only if it is impossible for a refugee to return home. Permanent settlement will now come at 20 years, not 5. I know this country welcomes people who contribute, and for those who want to stay and are willing and able to, we will create a new work and study visa route solely for refugees, with a quicker path to permanent settlement.
Wow.
To encourage refugees into work, we will also consult on removing benefits for those who are able to work but choose not to.
She's lying.
Outside of the most exceptional circumstances, family reunion will not be possible, with a refugee only able to bring family over if they have joined a work and study route and if qualifying tests are met. While over 50,000 were granted refugee status in the last year, more than 100,000 claimants and failed asylum seekers remain in taxpayer-funded accommodation. And we know that criminal gangs use the prospect of free bed and board to promote their small boat crossings. We have already announced that we will empty asylum hotels by the end of the Parliament, and we are exploring a number of large military sites as an alternative. We will now also remove the 2005 legislation that created a duty to support asylum seekers, reverting to a legal power to do so instead. While we will continue to support those who play by the rules, those who do not, be that through criminality or antisocial behaviour, can have their support removed. We will also remove our duty to support those who have a right to work. It is right that those who do receive support pay for it if they can. So those with income or assets will have to contribute to the cost of their stay. This will end the absurdity that we currently experience, where an asylum seeker receiving £800 each month from his family and who had recently acquired an Audi was receiving free housing at the taxpayer's expense, and the courts judged that we could do nothing about it. Mr. Speaker, these measures are designed to tackle the pull factors that draw people into this country. But reducing the number of arrivals is just half of the story. We must also enforce our rules and remove those who have no right to be here. This will mean restarting removals to countries where they have been paused. In recent months, we have begun voluntary removal of failed asylum seekers to Syria once again. However, there are still many failed asylum seekers here from Syria, most of whom fled a regime that has since been toppled. Other countries are planning to enforce removals, and we will follow suit. Where a failed asylum seeker cannot be returned home, we will also continue to explore the possibility of return hubs, with negotiations ongoing. We must remove those who have failed asylum claims, regardless of who they are.
Here we go.
Today, we are not removing family groups, even when we know that their home country is perfectly safe. There are, for instance, around 700 Albanian families living in taxpayer-funded accommodation, having failed their asylum claims. This is true despite an existing returns agreement, and that Albania is a signatory to the European Convention on Human Rights. So we will now begin the removal of families. Where possible, we will encourage a voluntary return, but where an enforced return is necessary, that is what we will do. Where the barrier to a return is not the individual nor the UK government, but the receiving country, we will take action.
She likes it forceful.
I can announce today that we have told Angola, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and Namibia that if they do not comply with international rules and norms, we will impose visa penalties on them.
No, you
and
won't.
I am sending a wider message here. Unless other countries heed this lesson, further sanctions will follow. Much of the delay in our removals, however, comes from the sclerotic nature of our own system. In March of this year, the appeals backlog stood at 51,000 cases. This government has already increased judicial sitting days, but reform is required. So we will create a new appeals body staffed by professional independent adjudicators. And we will ensure there is early legal representation available to advise claimants and ensure their issues are properly considered. Cases with a low chance of success will be fast-tracked, and claimants will have just one opportunity to claim and one to appeal, ending the merry-go-round of claims and appeals that frustrate so many removals. While some barriers to removal are the result of process, others are substantive issues related to the law itself.
Yes.
There is no doubt that the expanded interpretation of parts of the European Convention on Human Rights has contributed.
Oh, hello.
This is particularly true of Article 8, the right to a family life. The courts have adopted an ever-expanding interpretation of this right, and as a result, many people have been allowed to come to this country when they would otherwise have had no right to. And we have been unable to remove others when the case for doing so seems overwhelming. This includes cases like an arsonist sentenced to 5 years in prison, whose deportation was blocked on the grounds that his relationship with his sibling may suffer. And more than half of those detained are now delaying or blocking their removal by raising a last-minute rights claim. Article 8 is a qualified right. That means we are not prevented from removing individuals or refusing an application to move to the UK if it is in the public interest. To narrow Article 8 rights, we will therefore make 3 important changes in both domestic law and our immigration rules. Firstly, we will define what exactly a family is, narrowing this down to parents and their children.
Oh my God.
Secondly, we will define the public interest test so the default becomes a removal or refusal, with Article 8 rights only permissible in the most exceptional circumstances. Thirdly, we will tighten where Article 8 claims can be heard.
Just leave it.
Ensuring only those who are living in the UK can lodge a claim rather than their family members overseas, and that all claims are heard first by the Home Office and not in a courtroom. We will also pursue international reform of a second element of the European Convention, the application of Article 3, the prohibition on torture and inhuman, degrading treatment or punishment. We will never return anyone to be tortured in their home country. But the definition of degrading treatment has expanded into the realm of the ridiculous. Today we have criminals we seek to deport, but discover we cannot because the prisons in their home country have cells that are deemed too small, or even mental health provision that is not as good as our own. As Article 3 is an absolute right, a public interest test cannot be applied. For that reason, we are seeking reform at the Council of Europe. And we do so alongside international partners who have raised similar concerns. But it is not just international law that binds us. According to data from 2022, over 40% of those detained for removal claim they were modern-day slaves. This well-intentioned law is being abused by those who seek to frustrate a legitimate removal. So I will bring forward legislation that tightens the modern slavery system to ensure that it protects those it was designed for and not those who seek to abuse it.
It won't.
Taken together, Madam Deputy Speaker, these are significant reforms. They are designed to ensure our asylum system is fit for the modern world, and that we retain public consent for the very idea of providing refuge. We will always be a country that offers protection to those fleeing peril, just as we did in recent years when Ukraine was invaded, when Afghanistan was evacuated, and when we repatriated
Evacuated? You mean taken over?
For that reason, as order and control is restored, we will open new, capped, safe and legal routes into this country. These will make sponsorship the primary means by which we resettle refugees, with voluntary and community organisations given greater involvement to both receive refugees and support them, working within caps set by government. We will also create a new route for displaced students to study in the UK and another for skilled refugees to work here. And of course, we will always remain flexible to new crises across the world as they happen. I know the British people do not want to close the doors, but until we restore order and control, those who seek to divide us will grow stronger. It is our job as a Labour government to unite where there is division. So we must now build an asylum system for the world as it is, one that restores order and control, one that opens safe and legal routes to those fleeing danger across the world, and one that sustains our commitment to providing refuge for this generation and those to come. I know the country we are. We are open, tolerant and generous. We are the Greater Britain that those on this side of the House believe in, not the littler England that some would wish we would become.
What?
These reforms are designed to bring unity where others seek to divide. Madam Deputy Speaker, I commend this statement to the House.
Oh my God.
Leader of the Opposition, Kemi Badenoch.
Here we go. Opposition time. Let's see what happens.
Madam Deputy Speaker, can I thank the Home Secretary for advance sight of her statement, most of which I read in the Sunday Telegraph, actually. But I am pleased that she is bringing forward measures to crack down on illegal immigration. It's not enough, but it is a start, and it's also a change. It's a change from her previous position in opposition of a general amnesty for illegal migrants. But I do want to praise the new Home Secretary, Madam Deputy Speaker. She's bringing fresh energy and a clearer focus to this problem, and she has got more done in 70 days in the job than her predecessor did in a year.
Well, that's not difficult.
She seems to get what many on the benches behind refuse to accept. She is right to say that if we fail to deal with the crisis, we will draw more people to a path that starts with anger and ends in hatred. But we will also allow our English Channel to operate as an open route into this country for anyone prepared to risk their lives and pay criminal gangs. This is not fair. It is not fair on British citizens. It is not fair on those who come here legally. And it is not fair on those in genuine need who are pushed to the back of the queue because the system is overwhelmed. Anyone who cannot see by now that simply tinkering with the current system isn't going to fix this problem is either living in la-la land or being willfully obstructive. It is a shame that it has taken Labour a year in office to realise there is a borders crisis. Yes. I don't know why they're chuntering. What was their first act in government? Her predecessor's first act was to scrap the Rwanda plan, which was already, yes, they're cheering, it was already starting to act as a deterrent before it even got off the ground. And before it started, Labour threw away all of our hard work, the taxpayers' money. They're the ones who have wasted their money, not us. But this statement, Madam Deputy Speaker, is an admission that her predecessor's immigration and borders bill will not work. But I'm glad to see them now changing course. The powers they're using in this bill, they all voted down when we were in government. They wouldn't be able to do that if we hadn't got it through. None of them know the work that was done. They're just cheering nonsensically, but we know what has happened since they came into office. In fact, the Home Secretary will know that in the 70 days that she has been in office, 10,000 people have crossed the channel. And in the last year, we have seen record levels of asylum claims. The problem has got worse since Labour came into office and is getting even worse by the day. But I am afraid to tell her that what she is announcing is not going to work on its own. And some of these measures will, in fact, take us backwards. I say that to her with no ill will, and I hope she believes me when I say I genuinely want her to succeed. Because on this side of the House, we are speaking from experience. We know how difficult this is. It is, we are. And we're not going to take any lectures from the people who voted down every single measure to control immigration.
Oh my God.
Some of the measures she is announcing today, Madam Deputy Speaker, are undoubtedly positive steps. Baby steps,
Stop
but
praising
positive
her.
nonetheless. We welcome making refugee status temporary, and we welcome removing the last Labour government's legislation that created a duty to support asylum seekers. She's right to do that. However, some of what she is announcing simply does not go far enough.
Yeah.
On this side of the House, we believe that anyone who arrives illegally, especially from safe countries, should be deported and banned from claiming asylum. Does the Home Secretary agree that anyone who comes to this country illegally should be deported? I'd like to know, I think the country would like to know, because this announcement means that some people who arrive will be allowed to stay. They just need to wait 20 years before getting permanent settlement. That does not remove the pull factor. But the main problem is that for as long as the UK is in the ECHR, illegal immigrants and those exploiting our system will use human rights laws to block anything she does to solve this. I know this because I saw it happen again and again over the last 4 years. I know she is seeing it too. We even saw it this year with the Prime Minister's one-in, one-out scheme, which has seen people return to France come back yet again on small boats. I can guarantee that her plan to reinterpret Article 8 will not work. We tried this already. Strasbourg and UK case law will prevail. And I agree with her that the definition of degrading treatment is overinterpreted. But renegotiating Article 3 internationally will take years. Years we don't have, if it were even possible, but the fact is, it isn't. We know this because a small group of EU countries tried this earlier and they were dismissed by the Secretary General of the Council of Europe. Her government did nothing to support them, so I'm not convinced that it's the Prime Minister's negotiating skills that are going to sort out that problem. The fact is, we have looked at this issue from every possible direction, and the reality is that any plan that doesn't include leaving the ECHR as a necessary step is wasting time we don't have. Just like their plan to smash the gangs or the one-in, one-out policy, it is time-wasting and it is doomed to fail because of lawfare. We have seen this all before. The tough measures will be challenged in the courts and blocked, the new legal routes she's talking about will be exploited, and the numbers arriving on our shores and disappearing into the black economy will keep on rising. If the Home Secretary is serious about reducing these numbers, and I do believe that she is, she must be bolder. She must take steps. She must be bolder. She must take steps to deter illegal immigrants from coming to Britain and deport them as soon as they arrive. Our borders plan does just that, and I know that she has studied it in detail. I've seen the looks. I know that she knows that we would leave the ECHR and ECAT to stop the Strasbourg courts from frustrating deportations, that we'd establish a new removals force to make sure all illegal arrivals are deported. We would end the use of immigration tribunals, judicial review, and legal aid in immigration cases. Those are the things that are slowing us down. And we will sign returns agreements that are backed by visa sanctions to ensure we send illegal arrivals back to their place of origin. I welcome what she's talking about on Angola and Namibia, but all of us in this House know that they are not the ones creating the biggest problems.
Sure.
We need to be bold, serious, and unafraid to do what the British people demand: secure our borders. That is what is in our borders plan. So I urge her to take me up on my offer to work together. Not just because we have some ideas she might find useful, but because judging by her own backbenchers' reaction today, she may find our votes come in handy. Earlier this year, we saw what happened when the government tried to make changes to the welfare bill. The Prime Minister was defeated by his own backbenchers and ended up passing legislation guaranteeing that more money would be spent on welfare. And it doesn't appear that his grip on the party has improved since then. So you can be sure that the MPs behind the Home Secretary are already plotting to block any serious changes she tries to make. We can help her with that. Why are they shaking their heads? We've seen them do it time and time again before. I would say to the Home Secretary, this is a genuine offer in the national interest. We will not play the same game they did, voting things down for no reason, but she must be clear with the House on these questions. How many people will be able to take advantage of the new work and study visa route? And what will the level of the cap be? Will it be 10,000 people? Will it be 100,000 people? The government has separately confirmed they will allow Gazan students to bring dependents. We oppose this, but can she clarify how the government will ensure that people brought to the UK from a territory under Hamas control are not a risk to our security? If she finds that the Human Rights Act and ECHR prevent her from enacting these proposals, will she use primary legislation to resolve this? Has Lord Hermer agreed? By her own admission 3 weeks ago, the Home Office is not yet fit for purpose, so why then are we creating the new legal routes for the Home Office to run? And will she take me up on this serious, genuine offer to meet and discuss how we can urge her to put party politics aside, meet with me and my shadow Home Secretary. Let's find a way to work together.
Order.
Kemi, resign.
Time then.
Both
Home
of you.
Secretary.
Both of you resign. We don't want either of you.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I thank the Leader of the Opposition for her response to the statement. I see that the Shadow Home Secretary has been subbed out after his performance at Home Office orals. But whether it's the Shadow Home Secretary or the Leader of the Opposition herself, I'm very happy to take on the Conservative Party any day of the week. And And let me start by saying we will not be taking any lessons from those opposite on how to run an effective migration system or indeed an asylum system, because I'm afraid to say to the Leader of the Opposition, she knows that her party in government gave up on governing altogether. They gave up on
Anyway,
making
so now it's just
asylum
about
decisions, creating a huge
normal circus party politics, just repeating the same things. Just a quick update on what we are now dealing with, and I'm going to get your reaction as well. We're waiting to see if Rupert Lowe, Nigel Farage and others will be speaking as well. But bullet points. So, seeking to deport families and children who failed at asylum, starting with giving them money to leave the country. They will be consulting on cutting support for families who don't take steps to leave the UK after being refused asylum. They will be scrapping the legal duty to support asylum seekers and replace it with a different system. They will deny support to any illegal immigrant who has the right to work but doesn't. What? That doesn't fix anything. They will require asylum seekers to hand over non-essential assets such as jewelry, but not wedding rings, to sell to help pay for their housing. Not really sure if that's going to be enough to fund their housing, considering how expensive it is. Housing. This includes any money or assets that they brought to the UK. They tend not to bring anything to the UK, you absolute idiot. Allow the Home Office to demand repayments later. They will be cutting the time that someone can stay after being granted protection from 5 years to 30 months. They will force refugees to wait 20 years before they can permanently stay in the UK, which is stupid. I'm going to read it again. This is officially from the government. I'm going to read it again carefully. Just listen to this sentence. They will be forcing refugees or illegal immigrants, asylum seekers, to wait 20 years before they can permanently stay in the UK. So they've already stayed 20 years, basically permanently, and then they can stay permanently. Like that literally doesn't fix anything. Absolute idiots. All right, now let's get some reaction before the circus continues. It's so bad. So bad. Kendra says, Pakistan refused to take back, but a new deal signed. Yeah, they're still not going to take back their immigrants. Obviously, that's not going to happen, despite the treaty between the UK and Pakistan. Ivan says, seek reform. Just pull out for F's sake. Oh no, they're obsessed with reform. You can't reform the system. It's the obsession with any of these politicians saying, we need to reform the system. You can't reform it. Stop trying to reform things. Scrap it and leave it. It's the only option. You can't reform things. It's like when the idiots were saying we should reform the European Union. I hate the word reform. It should be banned from politics. Reforming things is pointless. Reformists, it's the same in Iran. We have reformists who are still part of the Islamic Republic. Bad idea. You need radicalism, not reform. Anyway, Michael says Takir, true. And Stu says that some people come here to commit crimes they'll be ruined for at home. Not being willing to send them back to face punishment is just an invite. Exactly. They're just going to basically bring in more people who are actually criminals. Banana Mahmood. Ivan says, what a clown show. It's so embarrassing. It's so bad. Look at the state of the MPs. Oh my God. Anyway, at least they're still wearing ties. There was a short period of time, a couple of years ago, where MPs stopped wearing ties. Oh my God. Anyway, so that's gone back to normal now. And yeah, I mean, Kemi Badenoch's approach is to basically corner them by saying, hey, we're offering you to work together. But she knows Labour will never work with Kemi Badenoch. So she's just going to use it as a political advantage, which is kind of funny, by the way. Neil says, sounding like a Labour, Conservative, Lib Dems, Green coalition to stop reform. Well, reform obviously is a combination of former Lib Dem, former Labour, former Tories. The only members that Reform don't have is Green. So they got members from Lib Dem and basically failed politicians from all the parties. The uni parties are now Reform UK. Libel says 20 years been done. Result, Ramal Al Zain clans. And we also have a couple of... yes, Jane is right. We do not need MPs. Stop Parliament. Stop the count. What is this woman ranting about now? And remigration, millions and millions. In the words of President Trump, millions and millions we need to go. What is she ranting about? Hang on.
What's happening though in practice is that has become an almost effectively an automatic pathway to permanent settlement. That is the thing that we are changing. But what I would ask her to do is look carefully at our protection work and study route, because we will be encouraging those who have sought asylum here, being granted refugee status, to go into work or to study that supports their integration, but it also means that they are making a contribution which actually will retain public support for the system overall.
Yeah. Can I just say something? Hang on. I'm going to show you something. You just saw her, right? Hang on. This is extremely important. Last week in the UK Parliament, in the House of Commons, I need to find this. This is the best thing I've ever seen. We had the so-called Youth Parliament, okay? And every year, it's a nonsensical youth parliament. A bunch of kids get invited to the House of Commons and they sit and pretend to be MPs, basically, right? And this is a photo from youth parliament. That literally the way Shabana Banana Mahmood makes a speech and tries to answer questions. It's the same. It's the way she's standing. She's like she's part of youth parliament. I can't take her seriously. That all of them. Look at this. Compare the state of parliament to what you used to have, even until the 1990s. The caliber of the MPs that used to be elected. But what's this? Guy Fawkes was the only person to go into the House of Parliament with good intentions. Yeah, he was a terrorist, but yeah. A little bit of a terrorist, authoritarian as well, but yeah. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this is irrelevant. We don't care about these weirdos anymore. The Prime Minister is hiding. Keir Starmer is nowhere to be seen, and his surrogates and his Home Secretary to defend him and his government. It's not going too well. We now have a huge number of backbench Labour MPs who are rebelling against Keir Starmer's government. And we're going to keep you guys posted on this as the Labour government will be failing to control the borders. Subscribe to the channel. I'm Maya Tusi, and we are the media.